Welcome to the next final chapter episode. This is a series where I try to finish all the series that I've started over the last 15 years, and we left the last episode with 35 series that I need to continue, and we are starting this episode now with 37 series because in the meantime I started Bride by Ellie Hazelwood, which is also a series now because book 2 will be out in summer, which brings us to 36 series. But I also finished the book and I'm now on track with the series, so down to 35. But after that I started another series, the Windy City series with Mile High. This is the first book in the series. And I finished that one so far, but there are 3 more books out in the series, so it goes on the list. So 36 series now. And we had one new publication with Sunrise on the Reaping. This is part of the whole Hunger Games universe, so it counts for me to this series or universe. And we can add that to our list, which brings us to the number 37. We are starting with that, and it is not helping the number at this point that I'm starting with Lovermind Book 8 in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. This is a vampire romance and the fight good against evil. This is also a reread, but we are getting closer to the books I really haven't read so far. And I've started with the first part of Lovermind already and am 200 pages in, and have to say I think this is the most heartbreaking story of this whole series so far. It is the story about John and Zex, and Zex was kidnapped by Lash, the boss of the evil side, and he is torturing her now and sexually assaulting her. Zex is a really strong female character. She is a fighter and she tries to find a way to flee, to being rescued, but it is not that easy. And John is her mate. Nobody knows this outside of this relationship because they haven't had really a relationship in the past. They slept with each other, but they made some mistakes. They hurt each other, and now John is really desperate. He is really down and he does everything to find her because he doesn't want to believe that she's dead. So we are now on the journey to rescue Zex, hopefully. Why follow a few side plots. My favorite side plot is the story of Blay and Quinn. We have them as main characters later on in the series, I think. So there is really banter and tension between them. But the main plot is John and Zex. And the last chapter I read today in this, which was chapter 15, was the most heartbreaking in this whole series. I don't want to say too much about the story because I don't want to spoil anything, as always. So I will continue today and will give you an update as soon as I finished the rest of the story. I finished Lovermind Part 1 and I'm liking it so far. I'm really glad they found Zex and she could escape the situation with Lash, and they can help her now. She is really traumatized, even if she doesn't want to see it herself, because she is such a strong woman and she doesn't need help to deal with that trauma. I'm so glad she has John now on her side. He tries to help her, but it is still complicated between these two characters. And it is not only complicated between them, but especially between Quinn and Blay, my favorite side characters, but they are not making it easy for themselves. Especially Quinn has a hard time here and is really annoying in his behavior, even if I can understand why he behaves like that. And I can say I was so invested in that story, and I haven't had a lot of time to update you. I'm sorry for that. But I also finished Lovermind Part 2. So the whole story now, and I'm really glad and really happy with how we ended up with John and Zax. I'm not happy about Quinn and Blay at this point. And I know that we have other stories before they have their stories, so it will be annoying for some time. I can understand that it is complicated between Quinn and Blay at this point, but I really wish Blay could leave that behind and could be happy with Sexton. And I really like the relationship between Blay and Sexton, except the point that every step in this relationship is a reaction from Blay to actions of Quinn, and that he sees or thinks Quinn did something, and then he took a step in his relationship with Sexton, and that is not how I like a relationship. It should be about the two persons in the relationship and not about a third person. I really like the character development of Thor that we have so far. He has to deal with a lot of grief because he lost his mate and was ready to commit suicide. But he is now on his way to get better and to find another purpose to live. And I really like that. I really like that he and John could repair the relationship they had. We had a few reveals in the end here about new characters that we got here, especially Murder and No One. I was surprised by that, even if this was a reread, but I forgot about that. And I don't know if I like the way we go here, but I'm open for it. I think the whole TV show storyline was not necessary at all, except that it revealed a character, and I'm confused by that because I thought this character was dead. Or someone else. I can't say too much, but I was really irritated by that. I can't wait to read now Pain and Manny's story, because Pain was a side plot in this book in Lovermind and is now the next story. And there was a lot going on with her in the second part of this book. I don't want to spoil that, so I won't say anything further to that. And coming to the main plot of the story, John and Zax, I liked where we ended here. We had a few problems throughout the story, but I liked how they worked on it, how they talked about it, how they learned to communicate, because John is mute and can't talk. So Zax needed to learn sign language. I was frustrated by some scenes with John because we had scenes where memories are triggered by him. But he doesn't talk to anyone about these memories and always thinks, oh, let's stay at this, don't talk about it, let's forget about it. But I want to know more about that. Not only in this book, but in all the books before with him. and I hope we get a reveal on that throughout the whole series, because I really want to know if I'm right with my theory or not. That is also a part of why I'm confused by one reveal we had here, but we'll see. I will continue the series now in April, because we have April now, and this was my March read that I finished on April 2nd. But before I continue with the Black Dagger Brotherhood series, I will read now Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher. I'm now 85% into Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher, the second book in the Lakefront Billionaire series. And we already know the characters from the first book in the series, especially Raphael and his son Nico. And the romance is with the nanny of Nico that lives in Raphael's villa or house. He's a billionaire and does everything to make his son happy. And his son Nico is 8 years old. He has an eye disease and loses his eyesight with time. So he has sometimes trouble seeing. And Nico and Raphael struggle really with that. Especially because Nico doesn't want to make his dad sad and distances himself sometimes from his dad. And Raphael, the dad, really struggles with the distancing because he just wants to see his son happy. He wants to spend time with his son. He wants to be a dad, but he doesn't know how Nico reacts sometimes. And Raphael is really jealous of Ellie, the nanny, because Nanny has a friendship with Nico and she is the one that spends time with Nico and she is the one Nico trusts. And yeah, Raphael needs to learn that he don't have to be jealous of Ellie, but needs to build a team with her, though they can both support Nico. But Raphael has a lot of problems he needs to work on, especially trust issues. Because of his history, his backstory, he really has trouble to trust other persons, to let other persons in his life. And Ellie, our nanny, was a songwriter and got betrayed in this business. So she also has a lot to work on and to overcome and to maybe find back into her career as a songwriter and singer. I really love the whole story so far. My personal favorite character of the series is Nico. I really love this kid. And I fell in love with Raphael, even if he is a real asshole sometimes and a red flag guy, because he wants to keep Ellie at a distance. He sometimes hurt her to shove her away, and that's a total no-go. But at other times, the most time throughout the story, he's a total gentleman, super caring, helps in every way he can, and I really love that part of him and can't wait to see so much more of that. Can't wait to see that the tension between the character grows, that they start a relationship, that they learn to trust each other again, and that they can spend time together as a family, and yeah, that they can be happy. But the most surprising on this whole book is this book is like a version of Emma and Oliver from a parallel universe. You remember that I write a story with a friend and our main characters are Emma and Oliver. And there are so much similarities between these stories. So the story rewrote, the characters recreated. At the end of January, we are currently at the 135k mark, so 135,000 words, and not nearly done. We have so much of the story written from this story, and we still have fun writing it. But I'm really shocked how similar the characters are from Love Unwritten and from our story. It is so similar that I gifted a copy of Love Unwritten in German to my friend that I write the story with, to Yasmin, so that she can read it and that we can talk about it. She hasn't read any Lauren Escher books so far, and this will be her first one. At this point we are allowing not following the reading order because we need to talk about that book. And we will do that. She promised she will start the book today, and maybe I can give you an update on that in my second update for the book. But so far I'm really happy that I started the story, and I can say it really gets on my nerves, or the characters really gets on my nerve with their behavior, like Emma and Oliver sometimes. And I really have a great time reading the story. So I will tell you more about the rest of the story in the second update for the book. I finished Love Unwritten by Lauren Escher, and I can say it was okay for me. I expected a little bit more than that. I thought that it was a book that I mentioned as good in the end, but it is just okay. Mainly because there were so much important topics, which I love, by the way, like Ellie's self-harm that was discussed, that Raphael had a vasectomy because he didn't want more children that could get the eye disease his son has, like Ellie writing her own music and producing it, like Raphael dealing with his trust issues he has because of his ex, the whole topic of his ex being a bad mom. I loved every single topic of that, but these were a lot of important topics, and because of that every single topic of these came too short, and we just scratched the surface of it, and I didn't like that. Every single topic deserved to be mentioned more so that we could have get really into it, and that the main characters really have to deal with it. So they have to deal with it in the story, of course, but as I said, it is really just scratching the surface of it, and that annoyed me. We had a little bit too much back and forth in the behavior of the characters. I didn't like that, but I really had a good time reading this book. I was really entertained, I smiled a lot, I laughed, I was emotionally involved, and I don't know what I think of the couple for the next book that will be published in August. I'm not really convinced that I will like the story and the characters, but we'll see. And fingers crossed after that we get another series, because the Lakefront Billionaire series is over after book 3, and I really want the story of Cole Griffin. Please, please, Lauren Escher, write us Cole's story. He's such an interesting character. super nice, and there were some hints to him, and I want to know more about him. So as I said, fingers crossed for another series, maybe around the whole music theme. I really love to read a good rockstar romance, and Lauren Asher could deliver that with Cole Griffin and maybe Ellie's best friend Willow. I don't know, but I can't wait to see what Lauren Asher will write next after book 3 of the series. And with that, I am now on track with the Lakefront Billionaire series. And that means I can read now another book. And this book will be The Will of the Many by James Islington. And welcome back. I am halfway through The Will of the Many, the first book in the Hierarchy series by James Islington, and the only book that is out at this point. And I haven't read this version. This is the English version I bought last spring, but I opened the book, saw how small the text is, and was intimidated by it. And in fall of last year, I saw that this book will be published in German, and I got a review copy for it. So this is the German version of The Will of the Many. With the new version of the cover, because these cover will be the covers for the rest of the series. So I'm glad they changed it for the German version, so I can have matching copies. And I'm really glad I started this book in German, because it is so much easier for me to follow the story here. In the first few chapters, I had some words that I didn't really understand, and that was not because of my language knowledge, because I read in German, but because James Islington doesn't throw in the explanation for the words for his word building the first time these words were mentioned, but showed us the explanation of the words. And I can say James Islington is really good at throwing in puzzle pieces and building the whole image. I was really intrigued from the start on, and as I said, halfway through the story now, and can't wait to read more. The whole world building reminds me a lot of Red Rising by Pierce Brown. But here we are not in space, but instead in a high fantasy world that is completely inspired by the Roman Empire. And I'm really intrigued by that. I'm really intrigued by the whole characters. There are a lot of characters. I can't remember a lot of names because I'm really bad with this. But that's okay. I remember who they are, even if I don't remember the names. I remember their position and their character, and that is what's most important. And we have one main character that we follow throughout the story, which is Viz, and he really needs to grow throughout the story. He has a lot of character development, needs to learn a lot of things. We start his story, he is an orphan, lives in an orphanage in a smaller town, and he gets adopted by someone in a higher rank, and it gets clear really fast that this is not the person he seems to be from the outside. He has a lot more education than an orphan in his position should have, and he hides in this orphanage, but his new position as the son of someone higher in rank gives him more power and more opportunities to find out more about the new hierarchy that throw over the whole system before. And the goal for this is to go to the academy, so where all the elite goes, where they get a special education. It is really brutal there, a lot of intrigues, a lot of secrets. You can't trust anyone because they all battle for the highest position in this new hierarchy. And his new dad sends him there to find out what happened to his brother, because his younger brother died at the academy a few years ago, and Ulsiskor, which is the name of his new dad, is sure that something happened in the academy, that he not committed suicide and that someone killed him there, and that there is something going on this island where the academy is, and we need to find out what's going on, what killed his brother, if Viz can find friends on the academy, if he can find out what happened, who he can trust, who he can't trust. The stakes are really high throughout the whole story so far, and I can't wait to read more. And I will do that now in my buddy read, so we read around 50 pages of the English version per day, which takes us 12 days because the book has 620 pages. So not the German version, but the English version here. And I need to read my pages for today, so I will do that now and will update you in a few days when I finished the book. And I finished The Will of the Many, and oh my god, what an ending! I need to know more as soon as possible. And I'm so glad that I didn't read this book last year in spring when I bought the English version. I'm really glad I waited for the German version, not only because it was easier for me to read, but because I still have to wait till the end of the year to read book 2, and that is too long. I'm so sorry for the people that read the book last year, because I have so much questions and I want to get answers. This book was super interesting, high stakes, a lot of tension, action scenes, we had character development, we had secrets and intrigues, and a little bit of romance. We had a lot of emotional impact because of V's backstory. We had a super interesting year on the academy, and so much more than that. I really loved every single chapter of this book, even if I think some minor topics in this book were unnecessary, and the story could have functioned without these minor topics. But all in all, this was a win for me, and I really loved the book. The ending shocked me. There were some plot twists I didn't expect. I don't know what to think of, because I don't have an explanation for what happened at this point. I'm sure we will get the explanation in book 2, which will be published in English in November this year, I think, and in German, which will I read, in December. It was so much fun to read this at the buddy read and to discuss the story and the book. So thank you, Rebecca, for reading it with me. And Rebecca also said she will wait for me so we can read book 2 together. So thank you in advance for that, because I love my buddy reads. And I'm really glad that I had someone to discuss this book with. And if you're still unsure if this book is for you and if you want to read it, because I know I would have never bought it with this cover, I was interested in the old cover of the book. I think that is way more pretty, but we have to live with that, and it presents the story, yes, but as I said, if you're unsure if you will like this, if you have read books like Throne of Glass, Red Rising, or The Hunger Games or Maze Runner, you should give this a try, because it is a perfect mix of these series. And as I said, I can't wait to read more. I have to wait now a few months, but for now this means I am on track with this series that I started in this vlog. And as a result for this vlog, this means we've started with 37 series in this video. My reread doesn't count. I finished Love Unwritten and am on track now with the series, so 36. I started another series with the Hiraku series, or The Will of the Many, so we are back to 37. And I finished The Will of the Many and am on track with the Hiraku series, so we are back to 36. And 36 is our final result now for this vlog. Not that successful in numbers, but I'm still glad I read all these books. And in one of my last vlogs I mentioned that I wanted to read another book for this vlog, which was The Winners by Frederick Backman. I have started this at the weekend, but this book has almost 900 pages and I couldn't finish this in 2 days. So this will be the first book in the new final chapter vlog. I will start filming this right after that and will give you all my thoughts to the winners and the finale of the Bertrand series in the new vlog. So for now we are staying with 36 series. I need to finish our DNF. And as we're speaking about DNF, I decided to DNF one series. Wait a second. It is a series that I started in one of my final chapter vlogs, I think. It is the Heart and Mercy series. This is the first book, The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. I read this in December and I liked it. It was super entertaining, and I said back then that I wanted to read book 2 and 3 in the series. But with some time I now think that I'm not that interested to read book 2 and 3. I liked The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, yes, but is it enough to read book 2 and 3? I don't think so, because for me it was more the thought that this is a retelling of You've Got Mail that made this book entertaining for me, and not the story itself. So that means I will DNF the series. So hey, not 36, we are at 35 series. So right where we ended the last final chapter vlog. And at this point I can only say fingers crossed that we get this number down in the next vlog of this series. Please tell me in the comments which is the last series you finished, so we can celebrate this accomplishment. Like the video if you wanna, follow my channel, and I will see you next time. Bye!